Good evening and welcome to episode 13 of the Unhinged Dads podcast. I am Brian De Almeida, and with me is my good friend and perpetual co-host. Yes, you should feel slightly bad for him, Dave Pasco.
Yeah, I feel slightly bad for me. I don't feel bad for myself, though.
That's okay. I feel
Not
bad
about
for
that.
you.
I've got other things to feel bad about.
Well, we're not listing those, are we?
Only one of them.
Okay, good, because we could go till tomorrow. And that's why Mrs. Dave called us out with our topic for today that we'll get to in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
Only one of many times she's called us
oh
out.
yes. Well, this
Mostly,
time we're just acknowledging it
it's true.
and using it for clickbait.
Yes. But before we get into that,
Excuse me. Yep.
we have our questions 3, Brian.
Yes, we do. You want to lead it off?
Oh, Lordy. What'd you screw up this week?
That's not the first question, Dave.
Oh, that's not the first question?
No. Remember, it's
that's
the
the
therapy
second question.
technique of sandwich the bad shit.
Right, but I like to front load the
Because
bad shit.
no, you like to just focus on it. At
mean,
least when you're talking about yourself.
Maybe. I'm getting better. Okay, so then, shoot, what is the first one?
What have you worked on to be a better person, husband, father, or, human being?
Right. Yeah. I'm sure there was something. Give me a second. I'll figure it out.
Well, while you're thinking, I've got mine,
Do it.
which this week, and you'll find that this relates to my second answer as well. I have been endeavoring to understand what people in my family understand from what I communicate to them rather than what I am trying to communicate to them, because sometimes that happens and sometimes it can lead to a very, very long week.
That, sir, is actually an advanced skill, and usually
I
involves
suck at it.
Sufficient humility to then ask, "What did you understand of what I tried to communicate?" That is actually a very good one.
Yeah, well, actually, we came less than an hour ago from a family therapy appointment where we were dealing with that.
Nice. Well, it's interesting. That is actually one of the things I have been working on with my children, especially, is trying to figure out what they're getting out of what I'm trying to communicate. This was actually a thing that I took in communications class, these many moons ago in the bowels of yesteryear.
Almost the pre-internet era.
Dude, it may have. I think it was actually the last part of the last century.
I was still in high school, just barely.
Yeah. I was at university. I was at college, and the communication prof said that I'm probably getting this wrong. That communication was more the responsibility of the listener than the speaker. I said, I think that's BS. But regardless, communication does require two, and if both people aren't doing their job, then communication doesn't happen. And oftentimes, when both people are trying to do their job, communication still doesn't happen.
Yep.
It's great fun that way.
Oh yeah. There's that thing where somebody, where you say something, it hurts somebody's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the natural inclination is, well, I didn't mean for you to feel that way.
Yep.
And there is there is a little bit of
True.
validity to intention. Okay, if it's a I'm sorry, I did not intend to elicit that reaction in you, as
Hmm.
opposed to, well, I'm not responsible for how you feel, deal with it. There's
Yeah.
two there's a nuance there as to how to approach that healthily and how not, but there's a real value in understanding that our words have impacts and they're not always the impacts that we want, and especially when we're dealing with people we care about, like say our children,
Hmm.
take some responsibility for the impact of what you said, even if it was completely not your intention.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Hmm.
that's what I fucked up this week. I attempted to communicate a small piece of information to
Uh,
my 16 and 17-year-old daughters. Um, I finished doing our taxes and then wrote a big ass check to pay said taxes because I did not do a very good job of estimating our tax burden for this year. And that pretty much wiped out our cash reserves.
oof. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got a bunch of invoices that are going to get paid in the next week or two. But I went and told my daughters, "Hey, just so you know, um, we just paid the taxes, and for the most part, what we've got in groceries is what we've got, which is not a problem
Hmm.
because we've got plenty of food. Because I'm like a squirrel, and I'm very afraid of ever even possibly running out of food.
I feel
However,
that.
However, if we run out of something, it probably is not going to be restocked as quickly as you are used to. Trying to
Mm,
manage expectations because children expect that something that's usually on hand is going to be on hand, and it's upsetting when it isn't. So I was
yep.
trying to manage that expectation because until these invoices get paid, we're rather short on liquidity.
Yeah.
And what my daughters understood out of that, one, I probably gave them too much information because I'm thinking about, they're approaching adulthood and I'm giving them more information so they have more understanding of how the world works.
Yep.
But what my daughters took from that is I told them and I didn't tell their little brothers. And so I was putting the responsibility on them to eat less and leave things for their brothers to eat.
Wow. That's
Which,
that's different.
well, knowing some of the traumatic things that have happened with them
Hmm.
in their lives, most of which I'm at most indirectly responsible for. There are some questions of, well, there is some anxiety around the notion of food insecurity, etc. And what I did is I lit off their anxiety,
Mm,
and so they kind of did that whole oh god, oh god, oh god spiral thing, and that's the
yep.
conclusions that they came to.
Right.
I was just trying to say, hey, we've got food, but stuff may not get restocked as quickly as you're used to. Just giving you a
Yeah.
heads up. So, maybe we want to be a little more judicious, knowing
If,
that stuff's not going to get restocked.
if you have a favorite thing, you might want to ration it for a bit.
That's the piece that was in behind my head. But
Hmm.
I neglected. Well, I did that thing of giving them what I would have wanted or understood at their age,
Hmm. Hmm.
because
Hmm.
I started running a business at 14 with my parents holding my hand. We cleaned office buildings because my dad was tired of paying people to clean his office who did a terrible job. So we started a company, and then I got put in charge of it, of me and my siblings cleaning their space, and I negotiated contracts with a couple of other people in that building. And so we cleaned office spaces, and I did it, and I sent out invoices every month, and those got paid.
Yep.
So I, like, kind of inherently understood we've got outstanding invoices that are going to get paid, means, okay, this is a short hiccup in liquidity, not a huge deal.
Yeah.
My daughters did not understand. My daughters have not, done that side of things. So they did not understand that this was just a short hiccup, and they interpreted, a week or two as 3 or 4 or more weeks, and we need to
Mm.
eat less.
Which, given the way your house is stocked, y'all could eat through everything and be down to rice and beans, and it would probably be months along.
Um, even with 8 people in the house, I think by week 6 we would be down to just 10 pounds of beans and 20 pounds of rice and an extremely well stocked spice cupboard.
Which makes rice and beans go a lot farther.
Yes, like
Hmm.
no, we're not even close to any actual food insecurity,
Yeah.
but they
But
you know they took something entirely different from what I was trying to convey,
mhm.
and that led to several days of them being very upset, and then sort of communicating that, and me trying to, oh, no, 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 that was not what I was trying to tell you guys.
Mhm.
You don't need to worry about that. But and so we actually and so yeah, we did a session family therapy today, just to make clear, hey guys, I'm sorry I screwed up, and
Mm.
you took a whole bunch of things that I did not intend from what I attempted to communicate to you. And I'm sorry that what I said elicited those reactions in you.
Fair.
And that's and this is not the first time that I say that I've said something half the time kind of offhand that my daughters have taken to mean like, oh, they want us the hell out of the house the second we turn 18. They're sick of us. They don't like us.
Mm. Yeah,
Which again,
that's some
it's
trauma
anxiety.
speaking. Yeah,
Yeah,
trauma
it's
ba- trauma based anxiety speaking. Yeah,
mhm.
that's ouch.
Yeah. So we're using that. We're going to use the family therapist to help us develop some communication strategies to hopefully reduce the number of misunderstandings like that and help us get to more clear communication. So I don't have kids going around feeling like shit for 3 days
Yep.
because they completely misunderstood something I was trying to say. So for this week, that was a very impactful mistake. I don't know that I can say big mistake because honestly, it was fairly small.
But
But
it took a lot of energy.
yeah, impact was far outside of what um, that conversation should have had.
Well, speaking of communication, my oldest, my son, is turning 12 next month,
Yep,
and he is got a bit of a quick mouth on him.
goes
And
with the quick mind.
yeah, and he has this habit of pushing his sister's buttons, and then when it gets called on it, he's starting to present evidence of call it teenager vibes,
Yeah.
and that's I'm learning that I need to communicate intentionally, especially at those moments. Um, there have been a number of times this week where I have said something in order to get their attention off of each other, his and his sisters. They're closer to each other than they are to our youngest in
Yep.
age and capacity, and it's easy to be misunderstood when the goal is attention rather than focused communication.
Hmm.
And I am going to need going forward, I need to be very clear with him, especially So he doesn't push my buttons, and we end up doing like Homer Simpson and Bart have comedically over the years, because it's not funny when it happens in person.
Yeah, and then suddenly there are hurt feelings, and people, and we're angry at each other,
Hmm.
and it was all completely unnecessary.
Yeah, yeah, and that is genuinely mostly on me. When I am anxious about something else going on and not communicating clearly and not regulating my emotions sufficiently, and a junior human pops off with something that they think is incredibly clever, and seeing red is not how I want to look at my children.
No. And on these communication issues, we are the adults.
Yep.
They're the ones with developing brains. So the onus falls on us to, not fuck it up.
Yeah, they have an excuse. It may not necessarily excuse their behavior, but they actually do have an excuse.
It makes it more understandable.
Yeah.
Of course, then we turn around and we beat ourselves up that much more for making a mistake with it.
Hmm.
But we're working on that.
We are.
So, aside from screw ups,
Yep.
Dave, what is something you did well this week?
God bless. This one is always hard. Fortunately, that's going to play right into our topic for the day.
Yep.
Uh, I have been I have been adulting fairly well. You mentioned taxes. I managed ours. Fortunately, it really doesn't take as much. Our tax situation, our financial situation, is relatively simple. Um, so
Yeah. Right now I'm filing with 3 Schedule C businesses.
yeah, yeah, I don't need to do those
Involved.
things.
It's
I,
involved.
it is. I would like to be doing those things, but I was not doing those things. Um, but managing taxes, I met with I believe a GC, a general contractor, to walk through the house and for him to give a bid on some work to the folks who are funding most of the reconstruction work. And one of the things that he said was that he's going to recommend that they actually raise the floor at ground level by a few inches to prevent further water intrusion. We have had some rain, real rain, what I would consider real rain. Having grown up in the Pacific Northwest, I have watched a lot of precipitation, and uh, this this was basically storm level of rain. The 5 gallon bucket outside the house was full this morning when I went up, but um, that's it's not so much the notion that it should happen, because I looked at it and said, man, it'd be nice if, but that's another thing to do.
Yeah.
The house still needs a water heater and a functional bathroom, and we're waiting to find out when the kitchen cabinets we ordered will be delivered. We're gonna install those ourselves, and that will be more hassle but less expensive than paying a
Mhm.
professional to do it. And we're both pretty handy. It'll probably go over all right.
Yeah, it will. I believe in you.
Well, even if I get all the fancy tools and doodads to make it work, it'll probably still come in at less expensive than the pros.
Yeah. definitely.
But
Um,
we get to shock the well because it tested positive for coliform and E. coli, which is not terribly
Yay.
surprising. But yay, our water is
I've been
dangerous.
infected with both of those. You do not want that.
Yeah, pass. Oh yeah, the softening system we have was testing positive for the E. coli. The well itself was only for with coliform.
Oh,
Yay!
still, it just means that at some point feces got into your water supply.
Yeah.
That's no big deal, right?
Well, it's. I mean, but was it the human feces? Was it the goat feces? Was it the llama feces? Was it the rat feces? Was it the dog feces? Like, there's
Raccoon,
so
coyote,
many
yeah.
options. Possibly, I reckon could be bobcat. There are bobcats around.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Central Texas.
Yep. Yep. Never know.
Yeah. So, what I'm going to give myself credit for this week that I
Yeah.
did well is I filed and paid my taxes and did not do anything that would get me charged with domestic terrorism
That's important.
or put on any new watch lists.
New watch list. That's
Hey, you know,
important.
I co-hosted a show titled Politics and Guns on the old Gun Rights Radio Network in 2012 and 2013.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm already on all the watch lists.
Dude, I held a security clearance while I was active duty. That alone gets you put on several different lists.
Exactly. I don't think I've added myself to any new ones.
That's good. That's important.
But yeah, writing that check that was honestly more than any car I've purchased.
Mm.
Now, I've never bought a new car. I only buy old cars and I keep them running forever because I'm a cheap bastard and I have lots of tools. I have more money in tools than I do in cars. But that's smarts.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
wow. And especially with some of the revelations over the last 18 months of how where federal funding's actually going, it's just
It's
a little more galling.
it's painful to look at all those zeros that have gone into the pockets of people who are genuinely iniquitous.
That's a
And to
very nice way to put it.
uh-huh. I have spent a lot of time thinking about how to apply words in a good way as opposed to a way that is unhealthy. Um, but to look at all of those numbers and go, it would have been really easy if I'd known about those opportunities to take it to exploit some of those. I'm glad I didn't because I like to sleep at night.
I'm gonna say
And
I know you, and you still wouldn't actually go through with committing massive fraud because you would not be able to live with yourself.
yeah, yeah, I like to look myself in the mirror and sleep at night. Um,
Yeah, I'm
but
with you.
yeah, it is painful to see the amount of fraud, waste, and abuse that has been burdening the system, and then look at the kinds of things that we have to pay as citizens and go, that feels uncomfortable.
Vaguely insulting.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, so before we jump into our topic, we did get some engagement on the socials this week, and
Mm.
while we're while we're small enough that we can actually look at most of it,
Hey,
hopefully that's only a passing condition.
right.
One of the shorts I posted this week was us going back and forth on the whole society says be yourself, and then I do, and they go no, not like
Not like
that.
that.
But
Mm-hmm.
a friend of ours, Joseph Captapon, which
Mm-hmm.
I know I just screwed the pronunciation of his last name. Sorry, dude.
Oh,
But he says,
I think you're
I,
close.
yeah. But he says, which self though? Home self, where I'm a dad and husband, trying to be the best
Mm-hmm.
dad and husband I can be, kind of nerdy, working on physical and mental improvement, a little of an asshole at times, who may or may not get road rage when people drive slow in the fast lane,
That's
or
fair.
work self, who is a hard driving taskmaster who doesn't pull punches, and since I work from home and from since I work from home often, my wife told me she could never work for me. I knew that because work Joseph is much more different than not work Joseph, but that would be a completely different conversation. But yeah, society overall doesn't want people to be their true selves. We all have to dial it back a bit for the general public or what have you, and the people we can be our honest true selves for typically is a small tight-knit group of individuals that we hold in high trust.
Yeah.
Of course,
Right.
we've gone and taken that last bit and decided to start broadcasting it for the public. Um,
Yeah, because there is it's one thing to say, I'm gonna keep everything, my cards close to my vest. I'm not gonna broadcast the pains and frustrations of my day to day existence. Uh, but one of the things that we've been learning over the last several years is that doing so gives other people the option to recognize that they're not alone.
yes, and in a world where increasingly as dads we can be very isolated,
Hmm.
and when much of the content pushed at us on parenting is very well polished.
Yep. Well polished and often focused at mothers.
Yeah, even a lot of the stuff focused at dads is still,
Hmm.
very polished and paints a kind of unrealistic ideal as being the actual norm. And we said, to hell with that. It's
Yeah.
messy. Let's be
Yep.
messy. We're good at that. But I actually had a rather poignant recollection from Joseph talking about home self versus work self,
Mm.
because when I was 16, 17 years old, I was actually working for the general contractor that did work for my dad's company. We were doing some repair and renovation work in their office space, and I got to see my dad in the work environment. And my dad in the work environment was a very kind, understanding, congenial, almost shoot. I can't. The word I just lost the word. Gregarious, almost gregarious.
Wow.
I didn't. I did not see him yell at anybody. Be
Hmm.
visibly angry at anybody. And a lot of my recollections from home were dad being very angry. Which I now understand that he was bottling up his frustrations while at work and then unleashing them at home, which was not a healthy way to do things.
Very much not a healthy way to do things.
But, as a 16 and 17-year-old, my takeaway was my dad likes his employees a hell of a lot more than he likes me.
Mm.
And again,
That's
I can understand it because you're not going to get fired from yelling at your kids.
it's true.
You could get fired for yelling at your business partners or yelling at your employees. But it's kind of the opposite dichotomy of what Joseph was talking about.
Hmm.
Is he basically said, I'm a very no nonsense taskmaster and kind of an asshole at work, but at home I try not to be.
Yeah.
And the thing I took away, several years later, as I was having kids, is that at minimum, I should treat my kids at least as well as I treat my employees or peers at
Yeah.
work.
Yep.
Like, if there's a situation where if it was one of my employees, I would be understanding and trying to help them, I should not be reaming my kid out for something comparable.
Yeah.
And so I tried to make the home self and work self as consistent as possible. While granted, still dialing back some of the nerdiness and weirdness for the normies that I worked with.
Sure.
But yeah, that noticing that dichotomy and thinking back is I think one of those formative things that really, as I developed, changed my course in adulthood.
Hmm.
was seeing that in my dad and going, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like this.
Yeah.
Which sometimes I think that I may be a little hard on my dad. And I want to be clear. My dad was not a bad person. I know that he genuinely cared about us. He worked his ass off to provide for us, and he was where he was at with emotional regulation because of who he was and how he grew up.
Hmm.
And I can understand that, and I can have empathy for him, and I can still say, you know what, he got that really wrong,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do better.
Yep.
So when I'm talking about, I'm not just shitting on my dad, which would be easy. He's been dead for I think 16 years,
Hmm.
long time. He yeah he died at 51, very unexpected, rather unexpectedly. Brain tumors do that,
Yes.
but yeah, it is not to speak ill of my father and say that he was a terrible parent. It is acknowledging that he was human and flawed in spite of having, I know, the best intentions for us. And that showed me ways that I wanted to try to do better.
Hmm.
Because ultimately it's that, it's my whole hobby horse of incremental improvement, continuous
Well,
improvement.
and frankly, that's probably one of the better tributes you can give to any man is as a father is he was human. He taught me things. I want to do better.
Yeah, he taught me lots of good things. He taught me lots of very useful things. And he also showed me some ways in which I did not want to emulate him.
Yep.
And, I can look at that and I can, especially now, because I'm 43.
Hmm.
I think that's about how I think he was 41 when I turned 18. Yeah, he was 41 when I turned 18. So we're at very similar stations at similar ages.
Yeah.
And, there are times that I come to understand him better. And at the same time, I almost kind of respect him a little bit less because I can see the alternatives to how he chose to act and go, you could have done so much better.
Mm.
But he was human. He was flawed just like I am. And I'm sure that, you know, 25 years from now, my 18-year-old will have some things to say that she learned not to do from her dad.
You know, as much as we might wish it otherwise, I don't think that's as much of a problem as it feels like from the inside.
I don't think so either because we're people. We all make mistakes. It's
Hmm.
expected. It's part of the human condition.
Oh yeah, we have things going on that our kids just don't really understand in the same way, and
Yeah.
won't until they're at a similar stage. It's
Hmm.
like, oh wow, that's what mom and dad were dealing with. Oh dang, that sucks.
Yeah. Like I understand why they did what they did, even if I don't
Hmm.
think that it was the best course of action. And for you and I, we're very good at I would say to a fault actually of being willing to point out where we've made mistakes. I kind of bogarted the last 30 minutes of last episode and then made it the fucking thumbnail for the video
I mean, it
of
worked out
ways
fairly well,
of ways in which I have screwed up.
dude. You know, there have been plenty of times as a father where I have been very close to laying hands on my child. And it's good that I haven't, but I would really, really, really rather not get to that point
Oh hell
ever.
yeah. And that's why we work on communication from both sides of the street.
Yeah, and also recognizing that there are plenty of times where you can work your ass off trying to communicate with your child, trying to give them opportunities to open up, to engage with you, to tell you what's going on in a way that you can do something about. And they won't do it because they're a little shit. I mean, because they're hurting and their brains aren't fully formed yet, and any number of reasons.
Those are the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
just from different perspectives.
Yes.
So, our willingness to possibly be a little too honest in where we've screwed up is what led to Mrs. Dave calling us out with a suggestion for a topic this week
Oh, God bless.
of acknowledging our own accomplishments, giving ourselves credit for the things we do right, and maybe stop being so mean to ourselves.
Yes.
I'm end-flipping a little bit, but I
Yep.
actually asked my wife if she and Mrs. Dave have been conspiring because she sounded a lot like my wife as you relayed the suggested topic.
Yeah. The the thing that my wife says, that Mrs. Dave will say to me occasionally, is, "Hey, stop being such a jerk to the guy I like.
Yeah, I've
Be, be,
I may have
be
heard
less of
that
an
one
asshole.
today.
Be less of an asshole to the man I love." Is very close to verbatim.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
That's senior NCO talking.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other discussion of, I'm not one of your subordinates, dear. Um, and there I have been fortunate enough to pull that out a couple times and not suffer for it, because my wife is a shockingly humble person.
She is. I love
Yeah,
her to death. I mean, I do. I love her to death.
dude, she's delightful. I I married
Genuinely
up.
on all levels. Mhm.
Hmm.
And when you say I married up, she will say,
Similar. Yeah, she will absolutely insist that she's getting the best out of the deal,
yeah,
because
that's what my wife does.
I'm at home and I cook meals that everybody, including our toddler, will eat, and our children are interested and able to use chopsticks and love all kinds of cuisines, and they have smart mouths and smart minds and
Which
all
are
of
a
these things.
curse
And
and a
she,
blessing.
yeah, and she gives me a lot of the credit for that, which is
Rightfully so.
probably fair.
I mean, I'll tell you that. You won't tell
Well, yeah.
yourself that.
I am learning how to let that thing pass through my mind, at least, whether or not I want to let it pass my lips.
Yeah. So, why is it so hard to give ourselves credit? And I have a sociological theory here
Hmm.
because this is because I try to observe elsewhere,
Yeah, yeah.
and this mindset among men seems to be much more prevalent within the United States
Mm-hmm.
and Canada as well, which we have a shared cultural heritage. But
Yeah.
the some of the unique cultural heritage of the United States is the founding of many of the original colonies by Puritans,
Okay.
and
Fair.
and Puritans, among their other proclivities, were death on anything that resembled pride.
Oh yes.
Pride being one of the deadly sins, and being one of the primary ways in which the devil leads us down to hell. Whether I
Yeah.
really go along with that or not, but there are some definite Puritan attitudes that have kind of permeated our culture here, 400 years later.
Look, the entire American prison system is based on effectively Puritan attitudes towards recidivism and paying your debt to society. And
Yeah,
there were,
that's true.
dude, if you look at the history of the American prison system, it is bizarre. Like there is some really weird stuff that went on.
That's true. So I think some of that stems from this, from this cultural heritage from Puritanism that eschewed
Hmm.
all things prideful, where it's never polite to toot your own horn,
Yes,
at least in public.
right.
But I think it goes beyond that.
Yeah, I think uh, there is a certain sense. I mentioned at one point, several episodes back, a YouTuber who's, why won't you believe in yourself? Well, because you're the only one who's heard every lie you've ever told. We know that we're flawed human beings, and our response, instead of rejecting that, is to embrace it and say, "Well, clearly, I am incredibly screwed up."
That was
And
also kind of that's also kind of a Puritan approach to
it really
admitting
kind
our
of is.
faults.
Yeah, it's other cultures look very differently at that. See also things like Latin machismo,
Hmm.
where there's much more of a persona of strength and confidence, where a lot of American attitudes are along the lines of, well, you can appreciate having done something well, but to call attention to it is prideful. Again, I think you're spot on with that. Coming back to that, and it is arguably its own form of pride to be so outwardly humble that you're not going to accept things like compliments,
Yes, I think
which
so.
is, I think, equally unhealthy.
Oh, and oh God, Bob Cruz. Bob shows up on my
Yep,
other show too. I love him. He's always got fantastic things to say. He
there
says
you
on the
go.
flip side, there are those who take a smug pride and look at how humble I am.
You are 100%
Oh
accurate, Bob.
man. And
I have spent my life in American Protestant churches, and there's always one.
one if you're lucky.
Well, look, there there's always more than one, but generally that's the least pleasant part of their personality, and mostly they're genuinely decent human beings, which is probably me giving a lot more grace than people would feel like they deserve,
Yeah,
which
but
is
that's what we do.
part of this whole process.
Now, on the opposite side of this,
Mm.
in trying to inordinately be humble about what we do, I've noticed this for myself. I don't know how much it applies to you, but if somebody else comes at me saying some of the things that I think to myself, like somebody on, some asshole on Facebook comes at me for being, a sort of stay-at-home dad, because all stay-at-home dads are layabouts who are mooching off of their wives and, are generally useless.
Mm.
When that son of a bitch comes in and starts coming at me, I
Hmm.
can I can start listing. Well, you know what? Here, I do this
Yeah,
and this and
yeah,
this, and I have done this and I have done this and I have done this, and in every measure that I can detect, I have exceeded you. So shut the fuck up.
right.
You make me defensive, and I will take ownership for everything I have for everything I've done well. But if it's me you're asking, I'm like, nah, well, yeah, I'm kind of an asshole.
Well, it's like, what have you done well this week? Psh, I mean, I baseline. I've done baseline. What do you want? And every time I bring that up, Mrs. Dave is like, okay, well, how about all of these things you have done?
Yeah,
Even the minor things. And Alex Hormozy actually has talked about this as a means of building confidence, is to literally list out the things you have accomplished, the things you have done well,
Mhm.
Elon Musk has his email. What have you done this week? What of significance have you done? The least little bit.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
actually, you know what? I've actually done that with employees.
yeah,
Uh, where I've set up a thing. Send me a weekly report, and I want you and I want you to tell me the three things you did best or that were most impactful to our work this week.
there you go.
Why?
Um,
Because I wanted them to take ownership from and be proud of the things that they did without feeling ashamed about that. Oh, and Bob nails it again. Says, now myself, I try to keep humble because whenever I get too big for my britches, life has this tendency to cut me off at the knees.
oh, that's fair. That's
Ooh,
that's fair.
I feel that.
Um,
I
yeah,
feel that. At my last job, where I took on being facilities manager, safety manager, and maintenance manager of a factory that had never had any of those. I had I had in a meeting we had a new vice president of manufacturing come in, and oh, he was a real son of a bitch. He thought we were dirt, and he thought coming from Geldwen's prefab door manufacturing line, having run that for a decade, that he was hot shit in manufacturing. And he may have said something about this in a meeting. I said that's funny because I've installed hundreds of those pre-hung doors, and my reject rate on those fucking things was over 20%. Now, as for me, while you're sitting here making passive aggressive comments about machine uptime, in the last 6 months that I've been here, our machine uptime has almost doubled.
yeah.
So don't go looking at me, asshole. The next day, one of our primary machines. This is a hot air fabric welder because we made motorized pool covers. So we were joining large pieces of waterproof fabrics together. So they're actually thermally welded
Hmm.
in order to keep them leak free. We
Yeah.
had we had major parts go down. It took us 8 days to get all the parts in and get that machine back up and running.
Oh man.
And so I suddenly looked like a real horse's ass after going off on how much better everything's running, and you can just shut the hell up. And then boom,
Hmm.
we lost a week's of production on one of our integral lines
That's
because
it
a
was not.
parts
It was coincidental,
it was
almost certainly,
well
and also.
it was a parts failure that the manufacturer was confused by because that's happened like 3 times in the last 20 years.
Oh goodness.
Now, that was because in the 20 years we'd owned that machine, it had never received any regular or preventative maintenance until it had catastrophically broken down.
Yet,
And we were in the process of building the preventative maintenance program on it.
do your
But
preventative maintenance, y'all.
we can do a show just on preventative maintenance.
Dude,
And
I am nearly certain that the reason that our Subaru is toast is insufficient. It's not that I didn't do preventative maintenance. It's that I probably relied too much on the reputation of Subarus for running regardless. I definitely could have changed the oil more often. I know that.
you know how I feel about extended oil change intervals, Dave.
Yeah,
I
well,
preach the gospel of preventative maintenance, especially on simple shit like that.
dude, I just changed the spark plugs and ignition coils in Clifford. Um, so that's no more misfires. Engine is much happier. Yay.
Yeah, but it's a Ford EcoBoost, so you need to do cylinder head gaskets too.
Well, we'll see if that happens.
I'm just giving you shit. That's not actually the case.
Uh,
But yep, Bob's got it. If
yeah.
you fail to schedule maintenance for this machine, it will schedule the maintenance itself. So true. And here's the funny thing is that whole bit of preventative maintenance does not just apply to machines
Yeah.
or to our physical bodies, but in fact to our mental health.
Yep. I kind of mislike the prevalence of, I was talking to my therapist, etc., etc., because it in part because it comes across as incredibly bougie, um, but there is a real need for humans to be able to discuss difficult things and unburden themselves with somebody who is not going to judge them for it
Yeah.
and who
Um,
is sufficiently distant from the situation that you're not going to bed with them afterwards, for example. You you
I
really
hope
shouldn't
not.
be
My
going to bed.
therapist is
You should
gay.
not be going to bed with your therapists,
Yeah.
regardless of their interests or yours.
Yeah. My therapist is a dude.
Yeah.
Not my thing. Obviously it's his, but yeah, no. I mean, I actually do therapy weekly.
Hmm.
In part because we've got most of our kids are doing therapy because they've all
Yeah.
gone through some traumatic things that go beyond just the divorces and blending families and shit. But they're also doing family therapy primarily for my stepkids with their dad to help to help them build a functional relationship there. And like I said, some family therapy with my wife and I to help us figure out communication and stuff. But for me, the individual therapy, the most helpful thing is being able to talk through stuff and occasionally being able to get some insight into these neurodivergent brains.
Hmm.
Because basically everybody in my house except for me is on prescription stimulants for ADHD. Well, not all of them. They've all been diagnosed ADHD. We've got one kid with autism, and at baseline we are a group of odds with a capital O. And
ADHD is rough, man.
and so there are things that with how most of my family process things
Hmm.
that do not make sense to me,
Yeah.
that having them explained by somebody who has taken the time to understand this, to understand those patterns and how they interact better is incredibly helpful for me. That's
Yeah.
actually a big part of the whole trying to understand what my kids are understanding from what I'm telling them versus what I'm intending to convey to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, also therapy can be very expensive. Fortunately, our insurance does cover that among all the crap it doesn't. So it doesn't cost us much, and the cost has been completely worthwhile for us. But yeah, for me, absolutely, right now, um, an hour with my therapist is preventative maintenance for the rest of me.
Yeah. I am engaging in the process of uh, potential diagnosis for ADD.
You
Um,
say potential.
I,
I'm gonna laugh.
I'm it. That's like allegedly. It's potential until it's realized, at which point it was clearly always there. But I described the shape of the last 6 years to the doc on base, and she's like, "Yeah, I think you have a reason to be depressed and anxious." It's like, "Yeah, I think I do, just a couple of them." So that was she suggested that there are a couple of veteran programs around that with counselors that don't charge for same. So I may end up looking into that myself. I probably should. I just
You should.
busy.
Busy. Yeah,
Good job.
busy's a big part of it. But busy. is an excuse a lot of people and a lot of companies use to avoid preventative maintenance. Oh, we don't have the time to do planned downtime on that machine. Right until a couple of years of not doing the planned downtime of 2 hours every other week turns into an
Hmm.
8-day production shutdown.
Yes.
That then takes you 3 months to get back on your manufacturing and shipping schedule.
You ever watch Ricky and the Boss?
Yes.
Um, the where Ricky is trying to inform somebody about how maintenance schedules work with their company, and effectively what they do is they run the excavator until it completely breaks, and then they bury it and buy a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's just
actually I know the exact skit you're talking about because I may have gone and sent that to a couple dozen people I worked with. A bunch of other facility managers, some other maintenance managers, and a couple of clueless people that I worked with, where I was
yeah,
building a maintenance program that was trying to prevent that kind of thing.
right. Yeah, perform your preventative maintenance, folks. It's a lot easier in the long run. My problem is I forget that these things need to happen.
Yeah, and that is what do we call that, Dave? Two
Uh,
words. Say them with me.
okay.
Executive
Executive
dysfunction.
dysfunction. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Um,
The referral for ADD assessment was not difficult to convince the doc thereof.
yeah, I mean, I've known you for
Years at this point, many years,
15 years or so.
something like that. Jeez, has it really been that long?
Yes, we are.
God bless. Wow,
We're that old. Bob Cruz is laughing at us
that's fair.
because um, we are not old to him.
Wow,
Bob's a
reasonable.
fantastic fellow, though. So let's see. I'm looking at my description that I had Grok help me write. We dig into the mental blocks, which would be our Puritan cultural ancestry,
Yeah.
the dad guilt, which I think we were touching on that earlier. Just that knowing, well, I know all the ways in which I've screwed up, and those feel way heavier to me than the things I get right.
Well, the other side of that one, frankly, is I know how many times I've screwed up in trying to parent my children well.
Yep,
I know
I
how
did that
many
last
times
episode.
I have raised my voice or said the wrong thing, and hurt their rather delicate feelings. And yeah, their feelings are delicate. They're kids.
Yep,
Yes, they're very robust creatures. As we have long said, kids bounce, and they bounce back. Uh, but
it's fortunate for their survival.
mhm, it is also rather impressive to me that my children still want hugs and snuggles, because I remember all those times that I have been. Fair
Continue
enough,
your
Bob.
thought. I'll bring that up in a sec.
Give me like 5 seconds here. Speaking of
Yeah,
children,
yeah. You can hear the background noise in Dave's house, um, which hopefully for those of you who are watching the edited video that comes out a few days later or listening on podcast, you don't actually hear that because I try to edit it out. But we got another comment from Bob says, "I am a man of a certain age, not quite as certain as our boy Ian, but not too far behind." Yes, although that actually means you're not that much older than us because Ian isn't actually that much older than us. He's not. Ian's still younger than my parents, who, my parents are actually, for having a 43-year-old son, are fairly young. I mean, my parents were born in 59 and 63, so I was born 11 days after my mom turned 20.
oh
But
goodness, active parenting is a joy. Everybody should have more kids. USA.
Have
So,
some whiskey, Dave.
I've got the Shiner's got this whole summer shandy thing. I can get more liquid. There's actually more water in that than there is in whiskey. And that's probably a good thing.
That's true. I mean, that's kind of my argument with 4.2% beer is there's not even enough alcohol in it to act for it to actually be dehydrating.
Right?
But I like it nonetheless. Actually, one of the things I am very jealous of you being in Texas as opposed to me in Utah is there's only one Shiner variety I can get here.
Mm,
I can get Shiner Bock, which is fantastic.
it is. It's a
Um,
decent beer.
it is it is not always the best summer beer when it's 105 degrees.
True. Very true. For that, there are at least three different varieties of pickle beer here in Texas.
I normally go to Mexican beer
Mexican beer is also fine.
and then
You
add lime
know,
and salt.
a good Mexican lager with lime and salt. One of the things we were in San Antonio. Wait, hold on. He's almost 12, 13 years ago for WorldCon, where we were
Back when it was still worth going to.
booth minions for Howard Taylor of
Wow.
Schlock Mercenary fame. Um, Howard is still a dear friend, and I appreciate him a great deal for the his relationship with us, and his wife and kids are delightful. But we were walking around San Antonio at one point with another friend from the convention center all the way over. It was probably about a mile and a half, 2 miles to a restaurant that had been open at that point, open continuously since 1937,
Wow.
38. Yep, great Mexican food. Their menudo is actually excellent. I found out later that weekend. Um, but the our buddy was lives in Michigan, and Michigan and Texas have very, very different climates for those who have not been to
You
either
don't
place.
say.
Uh huh. I do. And he had always decried. He's a bit of a sophisticate, and he'd always decried margaritas as basic in the sense of what does this even for? Until he'd spent a couple of hours walking around San Antonio in late August, and then had a margarita and went, "Oh my god, it's it's an electrolyte beverage for adults
Yes,
because it is.
it is.
It's
I mean,
glorious."
honestly, honestly, if you look at a lot of the
Hmm.
cocktails that that predate, say, Prohibition,
Yep.
that's kind of the that's kind of where they evolved.
Yeah.
Like there are functional elements. The
Oh,
most
absolutely.
notorious of those being the gin and tonic, because tonic water originally had quinine to deal with malaria.
Well, and cinchona bark is incredibly bitter,
Mhm.
and so the only way to make it at all palatable was to, pour in half a pint of gin.
Which personally, gin is vile. I can't stand the stuff.
I love gin. I like
You and my
gins,
wife love it. Nick
dude.
loves it.
Dude, I will even drink vodka, even though, as far as I can tell, the only purpose of vodka is to get you drunk. Like, there's no real flavor to it.
No, there is a point. There is a point to vodka. That is to make living in Russia palatable. So you say just to get you drunk. I say to make living in Russia bearable.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Two sides of the
That's
same coin.
reasonable. I the
Oh, oh, yeah, Bob. I'm not saying this to be an asshole. My dad's born in 42. My mom was born in 43. One of my
Dude,
grandmothers was born in 42.
wow. See, My dad was born in 52 and my mom in 53. My grandparents were born in like 1925.
Yeah. See, my
Right,
like my great
right around there.
grandparents, my great grandfather was too young for World War One and too old for World War Two, so he went and built
No.
the Alcan Highway.
Because you got to have something hard to do.
Dude, we found his diaries
Yeah.
from that. My great grandfather was an expert at fermenting anything.
Oh, Brian,
What?
did you see? Did you see where the court case about home distilling?
No, I've missed this one.
It's a recent one, and I'd have to find it. Let me see if I can find it. But the upshot is that functionally, we might get to have legal home distilling so long as we're not trying to like sell it.
Yeah, for non-commercial use,
Hmm.
like you can with brewing beer and mead,
Right.
as opposed to only being allowed to distill it for for fuel purposes,
Yes,
which is
or only distilling alcohol for fuel purposes, or distilling only things like essential oils. Because
yeah.
rub some of that on there.
Hmm.
Uh, April 10th, 2026, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit ruled that the 158-year-old federal ban on home distilling is unconstitutional,
And rightly
mark,
so.
marking a major victory for hobbyists in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Dude, I have wanted to build a still for years.
Um, this may mean that some of my woodshop time gets turned to learning coopering.
Oh darn! Look,
If
barrels.
if I can
Barrels.
make my own charred white oak barrels and fill them with my own home distilled whiskey, this could
Yeah,
be this could be bad.
I
It could
know,
be
but
really good.
it could be very exciting. Look, now, officer, I'm not going to sell this. I'm just taking it to a con to share.
We're sharing with our friends in bulk.
Yeah, it's a hobby. Here's my books.
I just realized, I do the whole huge pirate theme for Halloween, and then I sit out there and I give out beer and seltzer. What if I could give
Dude,
out mini bottles of my own
rum
whiskey?
or
Well,
rum.
actually, yeah. If it's for the pirate theme,
Yep.
I could distill molasses and sugar into my own rum and age it in
Mm-hmm.
barrels I made myself. That would be
Mm-hmm.
pretty awesome.
That would be wild.
And you know what? That would not be something I would have much trouble taking pride in.
It's true. So
You know
how do we
something?
do that?
I don't
How?
know, because something I have a hard time taking pride in
Hmm.
is taking 6 children and getting them everywhere in Salt Lake County that they need to be on time every day, 5 days in a row, from
Well,
five different
in
schools.
in your defense, sir, that is a course of action laden with frustration at basically every step of the
Oh hell yeah,
process.
it is. I mean, you've driven in Utah. You know how people here
I've
drive.
I've driven in Utah. I've driven in Salt Lake. I've driven up and down the I-15 corridor. Um, it's uh, look, it's not as bad as LA.
That's like saying that
It's not as hot. Like it's not as
that's
hot as the ninth circle. Third circle's like practically balmy, man.
that's like saying that colon cancer is better than testicular cancer.
Uh, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's probably not the case even then. Hmm.
Still, I mean, I don't even know that that's damning with faint praise. It's
Yeah,
just like
no, that's
damning with lesser damnation.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, if I can sit back and step out of like my internal emotional box
Hmm.
and look at this and go, Holy shit! That is genuinely like a logistical feat.
Well, and the trick there is actually, and this is hard. This is genuinely difficult. Is to look at it as if it was somebody else you care about doing this thing, and
Well,
go, would you praise them for that?
again, to our episode description, Brian and Dave get uncomfortably honest about why acknowledging our own accomplishments feels so weird, and why we're quick to do it for our friends but not for ourselves.
Yeah, I functionally all of my coping mechanisms here are basically sidestepping the issue.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm not sure there's a better way around that.
I think it lies in slowly trying to unlearn long-lived patterns of behavior.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I sit here and go, yeah, oh yeah, good job. I got all eight of us fed every day of the week. Um,
Whatever. I
However,
mean,
getting
food. It's
getting
like
fresh cooked
air.
from scratch, healthy, and give myself credit, delicious meals
Mm-hmm.
5 days in a row on the table when pretty much everybody's home, as much as ever happens in my house,
Yep.
which I generally time things for about when my wife gets home from work, so we can sit down and we can eat and we can transition to bedtime routine. But managing the logistics of planning that out, getting all the necessary groceries, figuring out with my timeline for the day of all the other things I'm doing, of when I need to do what to have all of this come together. It is not an insignificant endeavor,
Yeah.
but I do it every day and I do it well, so it must not be that difficult.
Clearly, well, it's just baseline. Like this is just this, and this is what it comes down to. The few times that I have been cornered on this myself, is I
By me
it's base
and
among
others.
others. My wife is, yeah. It's baseline. I'm doing the minimum that I would expect of myself.
That's the key, though.
Uh
The
huh.
minimum you would expect of yourself, because the minimum that you expect of somebody else is that everybody eats something.
Mm-hmm.
Three kids may have had microwave dino nuggies, and another one ate a peanut butter and jelly, and okay, everybody ate.
Yeah.
But you and I, on a pretty regular basis, are feeding them stuff that is pretty much made from scratch,
Yep.
that is using quality fresh ingredients, and is a step above of what most people get out of restaurants. This was actually one of the this is actually one of those revelations of how normies, if I may use that term, think,
Mm-hmm.
was realizing that most people go out to eat to get better food than they have at home.
We go out to eat so that somebody else has to do the cooking.
Yeah, we go out to eat for the factor of convenience.
Uh huh.
Well, with a few exceptions, like
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I am not going to be making sushi at home.
I've done it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pay somebody else to do that. It's intricate and it's tedious and it's actually hard to do really well.
It is hard to do really well. Was it? There's a documentary, Jiro Dreams of Sushi, eminently worth watching because it's just fascinating. The process that Japanese sushi chefs go through is insane to the American mind.
Oh yeah. We were talking about onerous occupational licensing requirements last week.
Mm,
You haven't looked at Japan, especially for things that it considers integral to its cultural heritage.
yeah, as opposed to something that isn't like fast food,
Yeah,
because sushi is not fast food, y'all.
no. Oh, and Bob hits us again. Remember, around 90 years or so ago, during the Great Depression, keeping your entire family fed was a major accomplishment.
I mentioned my grandfather was born in 25. He was the youngest of 10, or youngest of 9, youngest of 10, and he the food got passed from the head of the table and down, and so there were days where he didn't get food because everybody had eaten it all already.
Yeah, and well, dad and in those times the older siblings were all the ones putting in the work to make sure everybody got fed, so they got fed
Yes.
first.
Well, and Uncle Frank, which my great granduncle Frank, um, was captain of a supply ship in World War II, whereas my grandfather was a lowly radarman third class. So Frank clearly did better in some ways than my grandfather.
Yeah, you know, sidebar,
Mm.
unsurprisingly, my great grandmother was born in like 1912, 1913, I think.
Hmm.
Somewhere right around there. She was, I believe, number two or number three out of 12 kids.
Hmm.
Um, that side of my family were Mormon pioneers back to the 1840s. She was the daughter of the Salt Lake town drunk. My great great grandfather was the town drunk of Salt Lake City
Wow.
in the early pre-prohibition and prohibition era. So her childhood consisted of her mother taking and washing to be able to feed the children because
Sure.
her father drank his wages whenever he managed to secure a job, and they spent her entire childhood being evicted from one place and going to another.
Hmm.
And you get the assignment from school. Talk to one of talk to your grandparents and ask them what it was like during the Depression. Well, my great grandmother got married in 1928
Yeah.
to a hardworking, industrious man. And when I asked her, she said, it's kind of funny because for me, the years of the Depression were the best years of my life up to that point. She says, we consistently had a place to live. We didn't always have very much to eat, but there was always something to eat, and that was better than my entire childhood. She says, I thought life was fantastic. We worked hard, and sometimes there wasn't much, but there was something.
Well, and working hard is one of those pieces that is very subjective. Brian, how hard do you work?
Depends on the day.
Yeah, but like, how hard do you feel like you work?
Again, it depends on the day.
And
Although I came to a realization recently.
go on.
Um, I'm not so much a stay at home dad as I am a work from home dad.
Yeah.
Because, stay at home dad says to me, like very, very much primarily focused on the household,
Hmm.
which I am during the hours in which it is required, when I'm running kids around, when I'm feeding them. But for the most part, during the days when kids are off at school, I am
Yeah.
doing things that would otherwise be considered work. I'm
Yeah.
in the shop working. I'm occasionally doing client builds or I'm doing builds for myself right now I went through my scrap wood pile and I've got a 4 foot tall stack of end grain cutting boards that I'm doing for a charity giveaway for a good friend of mine, co-host on the other podcast, who's a year younger than
Nice.
me, who just had a double mastectomy last week. We're raising money to help pay her medical bills because she
Good.
is a,
Because cat deserves it.
yeah.
Hmm.
But I've put in a good 40, 50 hours in about the last week working on those to get those ready because we're going to be doing the auction and stuff in about a week or so. So I need to have those finished.
Yep.
And when I wasn't doing that, the couple weeks beforehand, I was doing framing and electrical and insulation and drywall in a room I'm finishing out in the basement.
Yep.
I am, I actually I may have been challenged to do this by my therapist and or my wife. Sat down and said, okay, how much of how
Uh-huh.
much time did I spend during the week doing work that would be considered work if I were doing it outside the home?
Right.
I'm still pretty consistently working 40 to 50 hour weeks.
Yep.
Then you add in the probably 8 to 12 hours a week I spend doing video editing and scheduling posts and stuff for this podcast to try to make it grow and hopefully pay for itself.
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely working full time in addition to being the primary person for most of the household and parenting stuff.
Yes. If anybody else was doing the same things that you're doing, would you consider them to be lazy?
Hell no.
No. Would you consider them to be remarkably accomplished?
If the quality of their work was there, yes.
Yeah.
But either way, I would absolutely give them credit for the amount of effort that is going into it.
Yeah.
And yes, it is very hard to sit down and just be like, yeah, no, I have worked my ass off this week. And the fact that this evening I don't have anything pressing that needs to be done, I'm going to sit down and play a video game for 2 hours before I go to bed at a reasonable time,
Yeah.
is not actually being lazy.
Yes.
Or the thing I struggled with a lot last year, because let's see, yeah, end of March last year, I had an abdominal wall reconstruction. We resighted my ostomy from one side to the other because I have abdominal muscles that haven't functioned for 20 years from other surgeries. I was on recovery and very limited because I have a 9-inch incision down the middle of my belly that I told them just remove my belly button. They actually carved around the belly button. I was kind of disappointed. But
I knew a guy in college with no belly button. That was wild.
I already have no butthole. I was kind of going for no belly button too,
Right?
But
just start systematically eliminating all those orifices.
Yeah, surgeon did not go for that. Said that was an unnecessary level of modification.
Oh, come on, Doc.
I've got a 9-inch long midline incision that is stapled, and so I'm on pretty strict restrictions on activity. I'm supposed to get up and walk every couple of hours. I'm not supposed to lift anything more than 10 pounds.
Good luck with that.
I did fairly well. I've had enough surgeries that I was pretty good about following instructions at least.
Sure.
But dude, that was rough because I felt very, very unproductive. After a couple of weeks, I was back up to at least, cooking dinner and feeding people, and I was off the pain meds so I could drive people around.
Right.
But for several months, I was very limited in what I could do, and I felt really
major surgery recovery is hard.
And it's harder when you're in your 40s than when you're in your 20s.
Yep. Don't get hurt, people.
Don't require a liver transplant at 21 years old.
Right. Speaking of difficult things to live through.
Yeah. Oh, we've got another comment from Bob.
Yeah.
Paternal grandpa talks about going to school with bacon grease sandwiches. The actual bacon was for real meals.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is fat is full of calories. If you had an opportunity to slather that on some bread, like that'll keep body and soul together, which is, speaking of damning by faint praise.
And bacon grease sandwiches are a far reach from what I was trying to prepare my daughters for. Things such as the portable packets of pickles might not get restocked the day that you run out.
Right. Your favorite dessert, you might have to go without for a week if you eat it at the usual pace.
Not dessert, but snack. She's doing a lot of weightlifting, and for a 17-year-old girl, she has put on a ton of muscle in the last few months.
Yeah.
So she's like, am I have to cut my protein intake from 200 grams a day or whatever to less than that?
And
Speaking of
that is,
problems, our ancestors would be really
oh my
glad to
God,
have,
right?
but that's the world she lives in. That is a normal thing, and we are extraordinarily fortunate for that to not be a burden.
Yeah.
And should we take pride in the fact that our kids eat a hell of a lot better than we did, and a hell of a lot better than our grandparents did?
Oh yeah, dude. My I don't know if I've mentioned this one on, but my father, when my parents were first married, went to Thanksgiving dinner with my mother's parents, my grandparents, and when he was offered pumpkin pie, he said, "No, I don't really like pumpkin pie." They said, "Well, we'll bring you out a plate," and he didn't recognize it because to him, pumpkin pie was this dark brown, puckish kind of thick thing that was not at all appetizing, because it turns out my paternal grandmother couldn't really cook to save her life, but insisted on baking the pumpkin
Yeah,
pie poorly every year. Um, you
it was a
know,
revelation, wasn't it?
it really was. Of course, then there was the year when I was in my teens when my the same my maternal grandmother forgot to add sugar to the pumpkin filling, so it turned out to be squash pie with spices.
I mean, it's manageable.
We went through a lot of whipped cream that year, is all.
Yeah. Well, hell, spices.
Spices. Oh my
If I
god.
mean, God, if we were
Ooh.
to go back to our Roman ancestors and show them the contents of my spice cupboard, which
Mm-hmm.
my kitchen's laid out where the pantry is a corner,
Yep.
and my spice rack is a rack that hangs on the back side of the pantry door, and it
Yeah.
goes from the top of the door. It's an 80-inch tall door to the bottom. The entire 26-inch wide backside of the door is
Yep.
the spice rack.
Yeah.
I
I
have untold riches to well hell
dude.
to eat that to even a medieval king.
Yes, easily. I have been using until the flooding in last July. Had been using a pair of Husky tool chests, rolling tool chests, for my kitchen island, and the top drawer is perfect a for spices, and it's 2 foot by 4 foot, and it's
Mhm.
full of spices. And then one of the bottom ones is for all the bulk stuff,
Yeah.
including the various types of pepper and the bags of ginger, powdered ginger, and turmeric, and things that
Mhm.
are probably older than they really should be, but are still decent because they I got them from decent sources.
Yeah. I mean, hell, I have three different varieties of pepper,
Mm-hmm.
plus chili powder, sweet paprika, hot
Yep.
paprika,
Yep.
cayenne pepper.
Yep.
I have mace, saffron, allspice, coriander, mustard, all in large quantities because they
Oh
get
yeah.
used regularly.
Oh yeah.
Seriously, my spice cupboard would be a prince's ransom as as little as 400 or 500 years ago.
Easily. Easily.
And here we go. Oh, I've gone through 3 pounds of black peppercorns in 3 months.
That is actually kind of a surprising amount of black pepper. On the other hand, if you're doing things like roasting meats, cracked black pepper is an amazing crust on that, and
Yeah.
works really well with practically everything.
Yep. We use a lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, so and again, it's kind of weird because on one hand, I'm not very willing to give myself credit for getting meals on the table every day.
Mm. Hmm.
I will take credit for the quality of them, for them being damn good food. You know,
Which it is. We have always enjoyed stopping by because we eat so well and we get to hang out
yeah.
with friends.
It's like, hey, what are we gonna do? Hey,
I don't know.
kids, do you want
There's
some pierogies?
right. There's food in there. We'll do things.
Uh huh. Or I think I think one time you guys came through. We did vodka pasta
Yep. Yep. That
that
was
your
that was
daughter
the
went insane on. I think she
yeah.
almost made herself sick.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. That was a good
So
vodka sauce, though. That was a good vodka sauce.
it was.
Hmm.
But why is it that some of these things we are okay taking credit for, and some of these we are not. Like if it feels mundane and normal, like everybody feeds their family, um, except I have enough other people's children's and another other people's children in
Yeah.
my house on the regular. No, they don't.
No, they don't. It turns out.
There's a lot of people who don't.
Yeah. Getting to the point where realizing that leftover night is we have to clear stuff out of the fridge because I cook more than in the way of portions than we can eat comfortably, and so it's like no, we're just pushing whatever was that night to the next night, and we're just eating leftovers.
Yeah, there's actually a thing where my daughters feel slightly slighted because of the way for my wife her custody schedule goes
Mm.
is there 50-50. So those kids are with us for a week, then they're at their dad's for a week.
Hmm.
um, there's been some disruption to that due to non-compliance on some of the older kids, so we've had more kids here consistently. But
Hmm.
kind of the pattern that we've come into is the weeks that everybody is here, I make a meal plan, I cook, I cook dinner every night that week, and then the weeks it is just us and and like the three older girls, we mostly go through the leftovers from the week before,
Yeah.
which which makes sense financially, and the leftovers are always fantastic, so nobody has any trouble finding things that they want to eat.
Yep.
But at the same time, they also kind of feel slighted because, like, well, when we're here, you don't cook. Well, I do if I need to, but if we have sufficient leftovers, we try to go through those because,
Right.
but I on one hand, I get really defensive about that. On the other hand, I can see where they feel like that's kind of a we're not as important.
Yeah,
But it's more of a logistical question.
it really is. Um,
And that's
the
one of the communications things we're working with is we're finding out that there's some of these assumptions that they've kind of internalized that no, it has nothing to do with that. It's just the food is here, the food is good, we eat the food.
yeah, well,
And
and as much of that is if I cook another meal at the usual standards, we won't have anywhere to put it.
and there are two refrigerators in my kitchen right now.
Yes.
I mean, like I said, I
Oh yeah.
squirrel away food like a squirrel on
Oh
Adderall,
yeah.
honestly.
The thing that concerns me is not do we have enough food? It's is the power going to stay on to keep the food frozen?
Yeah, fortunately, that's far less of a problem here in Utah than it is in Texas.
It's true. It's true. Well, and fortunately, things have been the ice apocalypse in 21, the year we moved here, lit a real fire under the ass of the powers that be here in Texas, and they have been working commendably quickly to improve infrastructure.
It's a novel concept, improve
Not to the
infrastructure.
point where I'm going to give up having a generator on hand as well as
Mhm.
propane bottles and a grill.
Yeah.
But
Okay. I need to go check why my dogs are going nuts and nobody's
yeah,
dealing with it.
yeah, do
I'll
that
be back
thing.
in a second. You monologue, Dave.
Oh, monologue, good times. I'm going to make that happen. So here, One of the really frustrating things about being an adult male in a position that is traditionally a female role is the sense of lack of status. Um, adult males tend to compete on adult males in America. I will put it that way, tend to compete on status amongst each other, where the pecking order is in part determined by how much you make, and the perceived status of the work you do. And caring for children and keeping the home is being a traditionally female role is not the highest status. It is not one of those things that is really considered to be a see. I'm trying to sidestep a lot of the questions of politics and whatnot here. Um, Evolutionarily, men are supposed to go out and claim new things and work with their hands. Um, Women are supposed to be nurturing, evolutionarily. Traditionally, reject modernity, embrace tradition, etc. Um, Brian and I are not really doing that, although Brian is doing that to a greater degree than I am with his being a work from home dad, as opposed to me, who is largely a stay at home dad because I have our older children who are I'm homeschooling, and our toddler who is in the innocently suicidal years, and everything he wants to do could kill him. The number of times he has fallen off a chair in the last week is non-zero, and that is troubling in of itself. But um, like I said, kids bounce. Bounce is good. I continue to be incredibly thankful that the children are made out of rubber. Uh, so the issue here is that I can't convince my lizard brain most of the time, the part in the back of the skull that is responsible for things like autonomic breathing and heartbeat regulation. I have a hard time convincing that part of me that what I am doing is as worthwhile as what I could be doing outside the home. So, yeah.
Even if you're not generating a paycheck, right?
Even if I'm not generating a paycheck. Well, and funny thing, it turns out that there is my wife's job right now, day job in theory, is curriculum development here on base, and uh, she was needed to meet with a sailor who had just separated for various reasons and was needed to deal with some paperwork related to that. And the supervisor or most senior person in her office was saying, "Oh yeah, she won a job." Well, turns out all the reasons that she would be offered a job, I'm objectively a more desirable pick on, because things like held a security clearance, and for those who are unaware, a security clearance that expires without a prejudicial incident simply goes inactive,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a hell of a lot cheaper to pay to reactivate a clearance than it is to start the process from nothing. So someone who used to have an active clearance is a lot cheaper to re, reactivate and then employ than someone who doesn't have one at all.
Believe me, I've missed out on a lot of job opportunities based on my language skills for not having already gotten a security clearance.
Yeah, yeah, that is.
If I had managed to be in long enough to get my clearance, um, my career path would look very different from what it has.
Mm-hmm.
because I would have been making a lot more money a lot sooner.
Yeah,
And I would
it's
not have
about
developed the same skill set that I have now. So it's
it's
probably a
true.
good thing. But
It's about positions of trust.
mhm,
A clearance demonstrates that you can be trusted with secrets.
mhm,
But that and my ongoing interest in language and foreign language acquisition, um, and the fact that I am have been busy doing things that indicate positions of trust in the meantime suggests that I would be a better bet for that position than the other gal, and the supervisor was willing to offer it basically as simply, hey, I know this person has been to this place, gotten the thing, and is now no longer employed by the United States military.
yeah,
um, Perhaps not surprisingly, Mrs. Dave is threatening to shepherd me through the process of application, which would be interesting because the entire time we've had kids, I've been the one at home and she's been the one working a day job.
yeah. That would be some adjustment. And oddly enough, if roles were to reverse and she were to take her retirement and you were to fill that position, you would feel like you're not doing enough at home.
Oh, yep. Yes, it's
Right.
true. I'm hearing Robbie. Give me a moment. My youngest is
Absolutely.
making noise.
There's the life of dads in the trenches. Things doesn't stop just because we blocked out our calendar to sit and bullshit for 2 hours. But I have some thoughts on why learning to celebrate your wins may make you a better father, husband, and man. And this is because I have, let's see, 4 of my 6 kids are now teenagers. One of them's 18, turning 19, graduated from high school almost a year ago, and is moving forward and continuing to grow and develop as more of an independent adult, which is fantastic to see. I'm so proud of her. But I find with my children engaging with the same pattern that I do to myself, of them devaluing the things that they do, the things that they are good at, focusing far too much on the things that they struggle with. And I find myself doing the same thing that I actually do with Dave and others of my friends of, no, you did this well, you did this well, you did this well, you are managing this really well that you weren't managing so well a year ago. And there is a part of me that is hurt by hearing my kids talk poorly about themselves, talking about the things that they, talking about the things they struggle with, or well, the things, things I'm good at. That it doesn't matter. And I have probably modeled way too much of that behavior, which is part of why they do it. And so learning to give myself credit for the things that I do and the things that I'm doing well is modeling better behavior for them. And, if I can teach them to not be the shitty voice in the back of their head, reminding them of everything they haven't gotten right and minimizing the things that they've done well, that is a net positive for them because they're going to go into adulthood more confident and without that nasty voice in the back of their head. So that's, I mean, that is one of the things I'm genuinely working on is when I'm talking about myself to acknowledge things I do well because I want them to. I made a joke in the Facebook post announcing this episode of the unofficial unhinged dads drinking game. Take a shot every time one of us says intentional. I think there's a couple other words that are in contention for being the subject of the drinking game. The one of the other ones would be modeling, because we are trying to show our children the best way forward, and the best way to teach them is to do it ourselves. And so as I watch my kids and I talk with them when they're struggling through something and they're being shitty at themselves, that hurts me because I can see all the things they do well. I can see all the things that they are handling far better than I did at their age. And
Convincing them of that is occasionally a bit of a pitfall.
yeah, and it's one that we set up for our wives too.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is fortunately blessed with more confidence than I am. She is more willing to acknowledge things that she's doing well
Mm-hmm.
than I am. And so I don't hear a whole lot of her minimizing the things that she does. And you've got me on speaker, huh? So you could actually hear me.
Yeah. Um, Fairly well. Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
I was discussing the relative low status. I mean, as a work from home dad, you are one who is engaged in things that at least pay. As what is effectively,
sometimes
yes, sometimes, as a stay at home dad. Even then, you're doing a lot of working with your hands, and that is a thing
it
that other
is.
men respect.
I
Um,
can take pictures and I can show them to people of things I've built.
It's true. I can show off my children and say, aren't my kids well behaved and not at all weird? I
Oh, they're
promise.
weird as hell, but they're well behaved and I love them to death.
They're genuinely delightful.
95% of the time.
That mhm. The youngest is has figured out that functionally he can basically climb just about anything. Uh, the
I
other
love
two
the
the other two weren't
it's
climbers when they were small, but he's like we've got
introducing new challenges.
the eight the Home Despot sells the HDX totes, the 27-gallon totes,
They're
and
fantastic.
they're amazing, and we've got tons of them. And he can literally climb up the sides of those if they're sufficiently weighty to bear his weight, and climb on top of stuff
Yep.
from there. And it's just like, oh, child. And it turns into a game. It's like, oh, daddy, you caught me getting onto the table. Look, I'm not getting all the way onto the table.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the
Uh,
proper way to I have a personal belief that your youngest
mm,
is actually going to be the most provocative of the three in
oh, I
trying to
guarantee it.
induce reactions out of daddy.
He's already the most outgoing. Um, my yes, no, I know you've met my daughter. My eldest is
Yeah.
relatively introverted. I know you've met my daughter, but he will grieve if there is not an audience.
I mean, that's kind of my youngest son. We talked about that I think last week
Uh
or the
huh.
week before,
Uh
of him
huh.
being the one extrovert in a household of people who are quite content to be left to their own devices
Oh
most of the
yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can see that with him. I mean, even the last time I saw him, he was not yet a year old.
His personality has only gotten stronger.
He is a ginger through and through.
Oh my gosh, he really is. He gets
He's con-
so upset.
he's consorting with the fairy.
You know, that would not be the first time anybody has compared my children to the Fae.
I do seem to recall a period of time that the older two were referred to as the failings.
Yeah, that honestly, that I don't know that that's ever going to really, they're really going to outgrow that one. Um, they are abnormally attractive children.
Uh huh. I mean, which coming from Mrs. Dave, I see it, but coming from you, I'm like, what the hell?
Dude, I've got fairly
Sorry, Dave.
regular. I mean, I got one eye slightly higher than the other in my skull. It's fine,
I mean,
whatever.
Dave, I don't find you particularly attractive.
That's
Sorry.
fine. You know, one person has found me sufficiently attractive to breed with me. That's good
And that's
enough.
all you need, right?
It really is.
Yeah, I don't understand my great great grandfather who, for a long time, had two, and for a very short period, had three wives.
Wow.
Speaking of Mormon pioneers, although
Right?
that's an amusing anecdote because you know where St. George, Utah is.
Yeah.
He was sent. He was sent to like 1851 or so from Salt Lake, where he had a well-established farm. That actually, I think the old office building I used to work in sat right about where his farm was.
Oh, that's
Weirdly
wild.
enough, it's
That's
strange,
that's
but
hilarious, man.
was sent to go help settle in St. George, which was established to grow cotton, so they could be independent of the rest of the United States when they were trying to build the theocratic state. And so they'd
Deseret, man.
relocated down there, and he had to come back to Salt Lake on business. He was in his 40s. Both of his wives were in their 40s. He came back with a third wife who was 19 years old.
Hmm.
She lasted approximately 3 weeks before she was run off.
Wow.
And my great great grandfather, his name was Jacob. The rumor was that old Jake slept by himself for the rest of his life.
Yeah, my understanding of polygamous relationships is you absolutely have to get everybody on board for any additions, um,
Yeah,
or it kind of goes badly for everyone.
as it did for my great grandfather. I
You know,
trying to build having failed spectacularly at my first attempt and doing pretty damn well on the second.
I think so. Yes.
Trying to maintain a like functional relationship is hard enough when there's only two of you. I can't imagine if there's three or four or five of you.
Yeah. I
Like that's just more trouble than I care to try to take on.
I've read the Bible. There were plenty of fellas in those uh, between those covers who were, I hesitate to say blessed, but who had married multiple women, and I don't see that many of them really benefited from it.
Probably not.
Mm.
But as we that there's a side quest for you. I don't know. I'm not sure how we end up there, but I
Meandering.
think I think we've covered fairly well kind of some of the reasons why we're uncomfortable taking ownership of the things we do well, why we tend to
Yeah.
discount so many of the things that we do on a regular basis just because
Hmm.
they are mundane. We see them as the bare minimum when
Yeah.
by comparison for you and I, we are definitely exceeding the bare minimum. We're meeting the bare minimum that we set for us, which is a standard
Yeah.
that we would not reasonably set for anybody else
Absolutely.
because we believe we're capable of more. Therefore, we must always do the more all the time.
Oh, the number I have literally written that in multiple journals at various points.
Hmm.
That that very thing. If I'm capable of doing more, then I obviously should be doing more. Um, it ignores context.
It does. There's a thing that I picked up from John Malecki,
Mm,
who's a very very successful YouTuber, former NFL player turned woodworker. Now,
that makes sense. I
oh,
did
you
not
didn't know
know
that?
I had no
Yeah,
idea he was a baller. But yeah,
no, he
that
played
that
football through
fits.
high school and
Dude's huge.
fulfilled his lifetime dream of starting one game for the Steelers.
There you go.
I mean, he was mostly third and fourth string, kind of prep squad, and his NFL career was not very notable. But yeah, he made
I,
it into the NFL, which is
yeah, he was a professional football player
for like
and lived
six
to tell
years.
the tale.
Yeah, I mean that in and of itself. You
That's
go,
that's
oh
a
well,
big
his NFL career was unimpressive. Well, how many
that's a
people
big
play
deal for
football
us mere mortals,
who never even approach the possibility of getting paid any amount of money to do
right?
that, much
Yeah,
much less to actually play in a game for your favorite team for your entire life.
being broadcast nationally
Yeah.
and around the world.
Oh, that's unimpressive. Maybe the scales are off a little bit there. The basis of comparison is a little fucked.
Yeah,
But one of the things John says a lot. The goal is slightly better than average.
fair. That is absolutely fair.
And
Well,
you know what?
and
By that standard, when you become acquainted with what average actually is,
yes,
you have to, you know what? No, I don't suck.
no, I genuinely don't suck. I am genuinely doing better than I think I am. That the reason I wear this bracelet is in fact as a physical reminder that I'm doing better than I think I am.
Yeah. I have this watch here.
Hmm.
The it's one of the many varieties of G Shock, one of the higher end ones that my wife got me as a retirement gift. Yeah,
It's
which
supposed to get a watch after all.
yeah, I suppose that's traditional. But I retired at 40 because one needed to take better care of my health, which we've succeeded at quite marvelously.
Yeah,
We were talking recently. She was like, the improvement in your baseline health over the last 3 years is huge.
yeah, dude. You could basically pass for a normie for all the things that you're dealing for everything you're dealing with.
Yeah, but I do that every day, so it's not a big deal, right?
Right, right.
But you know,
Where's the challenge in that?
I was like, this is because this thing cost more than I'm comfortable with.
Right,
Yeah, which is say more than $30 for a watch.
fair.
And she was like, "Well, you've had a pretty accomplished career," which I was like,
Hmm.
and I went back and looked, and you know what? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. I spent 17. It took me till I was 34 to get my bachelor's degree. I did a lot of shit before. I made a lot of money for a lot of other people.
Hmm.
Should have figured out how to turn more of that to me.
Well, and that's always a matter of if I knew then what I know now,
Yeah,
which is part of the reason to have
or if
kids,
I've had the capital that the people I worked for had, I could have done
right?
the same thing.
See, also,
But
reason to have kids is to then you can pass those lessons on to somebody.
hopefully,
Mm,
yeah. But she treated it like a genuine retirement, while I was kind of mentally approaching it as well, I'm giving up.
yeah, fair.
And we talked about the other things feeding into that of taking care of the kids, managing the household, and how much that costs to outsource. Much
Yes,
less to outsource at the same level that I'm handling it.
right.
And
Really, do you actually want to hire a personal chef?
no, having tried hiring a nanny and gone through four of them in like as many months,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, I
knowing
can see
and
that.
knowing the hourly rate I had to offer to get them to even attempt it, I don't want to pay anybody to take care of my kids. I don't want to pay anybody
Right?
to run my kids around. It's fucking expensive, and they still
Yeah.
did a pretty terrible job of it.
Yep.
They caused,
Because
they
they're
caused almost as much stress
invested.
as they alleviated.
Yeah. They're just not as invested. Look,
No, they aren't. And so I had to take, I had to go, and I wear it. I don't wear it on a day-to-day basis because I'm working with my hands, and having
hmm
things on my wrist also bothers me. But
yes.
I've taken to wearing it anytime that I'm dressed. That I'm dressed to not be covered in dust of various forms and grease and things.
hmm
On one part, because it's a relatively nice watch. On the other, because it is a reminder of the regard she holds for me,
Yep.
and the fact that she is genuinely appreciative that when it came down to came down to the question of one of us, really the question came down to one of us is going to sacrifice their career
Yeah.
in order to take better care of our kids, because they are more important. And when
Yep.
it really came down to it, with questions of longevity,
Yeah.
um, where she does not have my chronic health issues and probably shortened lifespan, makes more sense. Also, it also helped that she does make far more than I was going to, even as I was interviewing for a executive position at Huntsman Cancer. She was
Sure.
going to make more, which made that decision easier.
Yep.
But also, I was a very capable facilities manager. I was a very capable maintenance and industrial safety manager. I'm very capable at a lot of things. She helps kids not kill themselves.
That it. Yeah. Yeah.
For her, what she is doing is a calling. For me, it was a job that I took pride in. It was a job that I felt good about doing. It is not as necessary, and is not as integral to my identity as hers is, because
Right.
she literally spent 15 years working towards being able to do what she's doing.
Yeah.
And but still, I walked away from making from making the, because I was interviewing with a couple of places, from making the jump from middle management to executive positions with a fair amount of prestige
hmm
to take care of our kids.
Yeah.
And she recognized far better than I did that I was in fact giving up something of value, and that I was giving up something that I could take pride in, and that was easy to take pride in front of other people. Being
Yeah.
vice president of whatever, you know, other men are, that's oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You're director of whatever for Huntsman Cancer Hospital. That's like, holy shit, you're running 2.5 million square feet of medical infrastructure and have a staff of 400 people.
Right. That's substantial.
It
That's
is.
leadership.
You're running a $12 million operational budget,
Yeah.
as opposed to you're running 6 kids all across Salt Lake County every day.
Right.
Six kids in 5 different schools at one point. You're feeding them. It sounds pretty fucking mundane. It was important. It is important.
It is important. It's very important.
And learning to take pride and say, yes, I do this well, in spite of the fact that it feels mundane. I think possibly the most important thing, aside from the boost to your own self, to stop being a dick to the person your wife likes more than everybody else,
Right.
is to model that for your kids.
Yes.
Allow them to own the things that they are good at, to take pride in the things that they are doing that may feel kind of mundane, but they are genuinely good at,
hmm
which leads to them being more confident, happier, and healthier independent adults, which is the ultimate goal. So, Dave, our last little bit here,
Yes.
Let's own up to more wins of our own. Let's put it into
Oh,
practice. We'll
God
take
bless.
turns.
All right.
If you don't have one ready, I've got one.
Fire away.
Um, Honestly, one of my biggest wins is still being alive.
Yeah. No, that is a big deal.
Um, from where we are sitting 2 years ago, um, I do regular blood draws. We're always monitoring the health of my liver. We're always monitoring the
Mhm.
health of my kidneys because my immunosuppressants should eventually kill off my kidneys and require a kidney transplant to keep me going. It's a side effect. It's well known. But
Joy.
we do lots of monitoring to stay on top of that, make sure everything's functioning well. My liver enzymes went wonky,
Yeah.
and not unexpected, but that was a oh shit. So um, I immediately ceased all alcohol intake because my liver numbers suddenly went wonky. And as I've always, people have expressed, well, any amount of drinking with a liver transplant, that's just unhealthy. And I'm like, you know what?
Mm,
I'm gonna live my life. Don't I'm not going to live the life of the ascetic and take away everything that I like. But if it is negatively impacting my health, I absolutely will.
yeah.
And we've got the tracking infrastructure in place to know. So my liver numbers went wonky, and yeah, I stopped any form of alcohol intake because suddenly my liver was not so healthy. We did some diagnostic work. We found I had non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, which is accumulation of fat inside of the liver, which starts inhibiting liver function.
Right.
Um, from where we got diagnostically, they're like, right now you'll be dead in about 2 years. And so I went, oh, holy shit. And I did a bunch of reading. Fortunately, I have access to medical journals,
Yes.
and said, oh, okay, this is usually resolved with a 15 to 20% reduction in body mass. And I said, okay. And I got really on top of the diet. I increased my physical exertion, and in 6 months, I went from 260 to 210 pounds. My liver numbers went right back to where they should be.
Hmm.
And for 2 years, I've stayed steady at about 215 pounds.
Yep.
I have been on Mounjaro intermittently in that,
Hmm.
which I actually lost. I actually lost almost all the weight before they got me started on that. And what I found is the way that it slows down digestion actually makes life with the ileostomy a lot easier. It's a huge quality of life improvement. Insurance won't pay for it, so it's been intermittent as I can source it gray market or not.
Sure.
But I put in a ton of work to drop that weight, and I've put in a ton of work to stay off of it. And from what my hepatologist said, had I not, I should be dying sometime this year.
Right. As
And that,
opposed to
and
being quite healthy.
yeah, that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Staying on top of. I have to take my immunosuppressants twice a day. I have to take an antiviral because otherwise I have cold sores constantly.
Hmm.
I'm on a low dose of blood pressure medication because the immunosuppressant is a CNS stimulant that artificially raises blood pressure.
Right.
There's a lot of work involved in just staying on top of my health and keeping me healthy and alive. That had I given up at any point in the last 22 years now since the liver transplant, I would now be dead.
Yep.
And because that has been since my transplant was at 21 years old. My entire adult life, this has been a facet of it. And so it
Hmm.
is just normal to be going in for monthly blood tests, to be checking those and actually understand and understand those lab values, to understand my meds, and to be proactive and going to my doctors and be like, hey, this is kind of weird. I think we need to make some adjustments here.
Yeah.
Of being aware of the fact that I'm heavily immune compromised. And so when I pick up infections, I have to be far more aggressive with that than most people are. You can catch a cold and ignore it for a week.
Right.
I have to be on top of it. I mean, hell,
Yes.
couple of years ago, I was hospitalized for a week for cellulitis in my face. You know what that was from? It was from a wood splinter that got up my nose running the table saw.
Wow.
That got infected and left me in the hospital for 4 days on IV vancomycin because I had an infection in the tissues of my face that could very easily get to the eye orbit and get into the brain.
Get into the brain. Yeah.
I mean, who else? Who else at 30? No, I was 40 years old. Who else at 40 years old goes to the hospital for 5 days for a skin infection in their face?
Nobody who doesn't have also have some major issues going on.
Yeah, to me, it's fairly normal.
Mm-hmm.
But compared to the average guy in his early 40s, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
So I'm gonna give myself credit and call still being alive a major win. I mean, when I was transplanted, my parents asked the docs, how long might he? They said he might get 5 years. I
Right.
would tell him not to have kids.
Okay, then.
Oh, I followed cultural programming, had kids anyways,
Right.
and now those two kids are 18 and 17,
Yep.
and I've been able to shepherd them pretty well on the way towards productive adulthood.
Yeah.
But they were like, "Yeah, don't tell him not to. Don't let him have kids. He's
Yeah.
going to die while they're young, and that's going to be terrible for them." So, major win.
That is a
Me
major one.
still being alive.
Yeah. Um, I'm still married after basically 20 years in the military and military adjacent.
You know,
That's
outside
that's
of the military, that is an accomplishment anymore.
yeah.
Inside of the military, it's about double the accomplishment.
And not just that, but my wife and I actively enjoy each other's company and look forward to what little time we do get to spend together.
Yep.
We had celebrated our third wedding anniversary before we got 365 days co-located, um, because she was stationed in Georgia and I was stationed in Hawaii when we got married.
Yeah.
Um,
Not many marriages do that very well.
we developed a lot of trust early on, primarily through communication and shared values. And for those listening in, whether now or in the future, build trust, build communication skills. Um, those are the things that are going to see you through the difficult times.
Yep. And the last 5 years have proven that for you too.
Yeah, I've been over the PCS from Heck. There are some things that we'll get to later on at some point in this when it's topically appropriate.
Yeah.
But we have had a substantial personal disaster pretty much yearly. And the car dying is we decided that this year is the car dying. We're not at home for any other disasters this year.
Comparatively, that's pretty minor.
Yet, right? Um, so that's a big deal.
Let's see. Another one I will take.
Hmm.
My oldest daughter is still alive.
Yeah.
Um, I think I've mentioned that in briefly. I'm still not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but there were some things that happened to my oldest daughter that I was unaware of when they happened. Among things that I will never fully forgive myself for. But
Right.
but in addition to the dysfunction of the relationship between myself and her mom,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to the dysfunction that is inherent to the rest of my family. And she had other highly traumatic things that happened, and that all kind of came to a head once she was in high school.
Yeah.
Um, her sophomore year was really rough. Her junior year, she spent primarily in and out of psych hospital. She spent 4 months in a day treatment program where I took her to the psych hospital every morning and picked her up in the evening. And she
Mm-hmm.
did the school replacement and lots of targeted therapy and treatment there. She spent 2 months in a residential treatment center. And then she did 2 years of twice a week therapy with a therapist once we found her a good one. Um, my daughter went from 16 years old being, having on her chart adolescent with characteristics of cluster B personality disorder, because you cannot officially have borderline personality disorder until you are 18 per DSM guidelines. So that is the diagnosis for adolescents who otherwise meet the diagnostic requirements of severe personality disorders. Um,
Joy.
so, which if you're familiar with borderline personality disorder, that also means there is a lot of shit aimed at me
Mm-hmm.
from her. And
Absolutely.
as a result of the things that had happened to her, and how she was very maladaptively dealing with that. Amongst all the dysfunction that I have to take accountability for participating in fully. Um, but ultimately, I spent about 3 years going to bed at night seriously concerned that I would wake up in the morning to find that my daughter had successfully ended herself,
Mm-hmm.
which the strain of that was incredible.
Yeah. Not minor. Not
No,
minor at all.
but today she's 18 and a half years old. That diagnosis has been removed from her chart, and that is credit to her. She got on board with therapy and said, I don't want to be like this, and she has
Yeah.
put in so much work.
That in of itself is enormous. These things don't work without buy-in.
No, they don't. And thank God she decided to get with it. And
Mm-hmm.
today, she's a pretty well adjusted and functional and successful young adult.
Yep.
And, as much, so much credit goes to her for, getting with it and deciding that she was going to get better.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of credit that goes to me and goes to my wife for supporting that, for
Oh yeah.
paying for it, for
Mm-hmm.
getting her to and from all of her treatment, for dealing with all of the shit that got thrown at us by her because she was fighting what was good for her. She was fighting the people who were trying to help her because that's where she was at, that's where she was mentally.
Yeah.
But yeah, she did a lot of work. We did a lot of work. We went through a lot to help her get to where she was willing to put in that work. And that's one of those things. If I had not retired when I did, I would not have had the time resources to get her to and from everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, she not. I mean, for a kid who spent basically 1 out of 4 years in high school in mental health facilities and severe mental health treatment, she graduated on time.
Yeah, that is kind of an astonishing achievement in of itself.
Vast majority of those kids get a GED at some point. A lot of them don't even do that. because a
Yeah.
lot of them never really completely get out of that space. She
Yep.
graduated from high school with the high school diploma on time by the skin of her teeth. I mean, she literally had a half credit extra, but she did it.
Yep.
And she is now working. She's doing extremely well. She's making friends. She is functioning as a young adult. And I mean, for me that's a bigger accomplishment than keeping my dumbass alive. But that was also an integral part of getting her to where she was okay with with maintaining her current physical state of being.
Right.
Because for a long time there, she was not okay with that notion.
Hmm.
And I deeply feared that she would be successful in figuring a way out.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, honestly, myself and my wife deserve a whole bunch of credit for providing her with the support and environment to get to where she is now.
Yeah. Enabling her to do the work herself is huge.
We did a lot of pushing her into it and kind of trying to force her until she decided to get with it.
Hmm.
And that was certainly not the path of least resistance.
No.
I mean, hell,
No.
I know you read plenty of rants from me on days where it was just too fucking much.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a bit concerning.
I'm sure it was more than a bit concerning.
Well, it, there is the fortunate reality that I don't feel responsible for your children.
Yeah,
Um, and as cold as that might sound, there's a certain amount of compartmentalization that you have to do when you care for people that you can't affect.
yep. However, you were there to listen.
Yeah.
You were there to empathize and to encourage continuing on with it.
Yep.
You know,
And
you and several others were an integral part of the support system that kept me able to engage.
speaking of the least I could do, just baseline.
Yeah, I was a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, a friend with a hell of a lot of impact.
You know, it turns out that when you are that the appropriate response when you encounter people in pain is to simply be present.
Sometimes it's all that's needed.
Yeah. Um, the the worst part about being in pain is feeling alone.
Yeah, which is a big part of why we decided we're going to put the messy bits of parenting on display here
Yeah, because
because nobody
y'all
should
ain't
feel
alone.
alone.
Yeah.
Raising kids is hard at baseline. Raising kids in this world is even more so.
Raising kids successfully is hard enough. Dealing with extra crap is incredibly difficult.
Hmm. So, Dave, another win for you.
I am taking charge of my mental health. Uh, Talking to the doc about depression and anxiety, and getting a getting Prozac for that, um, which is weird, but
Wait till you've been on it for about 8 weeks.
yeah, yeah, I'm at it's going to be about 6 more weeks before that is a thing.
Yep.
And actually getting an ADD assessment, which surprises literally nobody who knows me.
especially those of us who have any familiarity with the
Oh my
condition.
gosh. Yeah.
All right, we've only been telling you this for 10 years.
You know, so
You want
but
me to
I'm
bring Amanda on here to yell at both of us?
oh God bless. She will do it too.
I know.
Uh, that's that would be
All right,
hilarious, honestly.
speaking of unhinged,
I would say I
I love
I
her.
don't think
I
oh I
love
don't think
her
she'll
to
do it
death.
just because it's too high a profile. But
Yes.
yeah, the yeah. Uh, eventually, we might discuss some more of some of our friends, provided they
Are okay with it.
are okay with it. Um, but yeah, this has been hard. I
Excuse me.
was feeling incredibly depressed when my older two were very young, and so I went to talk to mental health on the base that we were living near, that in on the the east part of the country, and the woman they had me talk to is apparently dealt mostly with civilian female spouses, not with veteran male spouses. So
Oh,
I talked frankly about the things that I was feeling and thinking and struggling with, and that did not go over as well as it could have, shall we say. Um, the the comment that Mrs. Dave made after we were safely home um, was that the occupational therapist was clearly on edge as we were walking out, as she and I were walking out of the office toward the waiting area, and it was only when my two small children screamed "Daddy" and ran up and gave me big hugs that she visibly relaxed. Um, I didn't go for the follow up because I was not trusting at that point
yeah.
of that it would have gone well.
Um, there is something in shared mindset with a proclivity towards direct and kinetic solutions to problems,
That's a great way to put it.
and a predilection for minimizing things with very dark humor
Yep.
that a lot of people are not very well prepared for, and a lot of people working in mental health are not prepared for, because they because people who are drawn to mental health tend to be very kind of communally oriented, almost kind of the hold hands and sing kumbaya inclination. And
Yeah,
when
that
they
checks out.
and when they are confronted with somebody who sees problems and sees direct kinetic resolutions for them as being the simplest solution, they are not always well handled to it. I have learned to gently sound out a therapist as to whether or not we're going to be compatible,
Yeah,
because I can graduate up to things and see if they are shocked by this.
right,
Then okay, we can't actually delve into my head.
right. One of the options that I have since been it has since been recommended is to, in fact, talk to groups that specialize in treating veterans and specifically combat veterans,
Yes.
because people who look to sign the proverbial um, blank check to the country tend to be of a certain mindset, whether they ever see combat or not,
Mhm.
because you have to consider that you are going to die in service.
and be okay with that.
And be okay enough to go through with the process. Yeah.
I
And
mean,
frankly, anybody who ends up successfully graduating basic training has thought about it enough to continue.
yeah, I never actually made it to basic training. I signed all the paperwork.
Yeah, you've
I haven't.
literally
I
confronted death enough that I think you get honorary veteran status.
Yeah, if yeah, if I haven't quite been there, I certainly speak and feel the lingo. Um,
Yeah,
I I was very much confronted with the reality of mortality at a similar age, and oddly enough, developed very similar, often maladaptive coping mechanisms. Which is which is why I occasionally get people. Wait, I thought you were a veteran. No, no, I'm just fucked up.
curiously enough, you're not the only one of our friend group who fits that particular descriptor.
Nick, Mister
Nick,
Mister, I broke my spine and was supposed to become a paraplegic at 16, and
yeah,
here I am at 43, still lifting weights and carrying around my toddler.
uh, Scott Bascom, who
Yeah,
knows what it's like to be shot at and not allowed to shoot back.
there
Also,
are
spinal injury, interestingly enough.
yeah. I can say that I can say there are a few things that make you feel quite as alive in the moment as hearing the supersonic crack of rifle bullets going by your head.
Yeah,
Be they addressed to you specifically or just
to whom it may
to
concern.
whom it may concern.
Yeah,
Um, I've been there a couple times, not really intentionally, but
yeah.
you know, interesting things happen in far-flung parts of the world when you're off on your own.
It's weird that way. That there are places in this in on this planet that are not as civilized as the places we have tended to call home.
Well, for which we should count ourselves very fortunate.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more win. Um, I'm going to give myself a ton of credit for skill development.
Yep.
Um, I have spent my adolescence and my adult life continuously learning things.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple degrees in automotive technology. If I'm giving myself credit, I'm actually a pretty damn good automotive diagnostician with modern vehicles. Um,
I have found that to be true. Yes.
I'm not very up on electric drive systems, and I don't care to be because I like vroom vroom noises, not
You
whatever
know,
fuck noise electric.
every time like a Tesla or something drives by, the sound the motors make is really it's super sci-fi and just it tickles those parts of my heart.
That's not what it says to me, and I'm not going to say what it says to me because it'll get us down. But I honestly am a pretty damn capable automotive diagnostician and
Mm-hmm.
repairman. I I've come up in the construction trades where I'm pretty capable at a lot of things and decided a couple of years ago to lean hard at the fine woodworking. Go from nailing 2x4s together to trying to learn to make seamless joints and joinery that works without glue, and
Right.
and make really pretty things
Mm-hmm.
that will last for generations.
Yep.
And I've gotten to a point now where I have enough confidence in my abilities to actually charge people money for it. And when I was 21 years old, shortly after my liver transplant, my doctors were telling me, "Hey, we can sign the paperwork, and you qualify for disability whenever you want."
Right.
And I was like, No, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I can do something. I've done a lot of things,
Hmm.
but I've always kind of had that I've always had that knowledge that I could say, you know what, fuck this, and go on SSDI, and then be very limited in what I'm allowed to do, and just kind of stagnate.
Right.
I have chosen to continue to work, to continue to develop skills, to build a skill set, and continue to advance. And honestly, that has probably contributed as much to my longevity as, the actual trying, explicit trying to keep myself alive.
Absolutely.
But I have, in addition to spending a lot of money on tools over decades now, I have built the skills to go along with that,
Hmm.
to where I can be given a description of something, and I can envision that in my head, and I can make it happen and be proud of it.
Yeah.
I custom designed and built a dresser for my wife specifically for what she wanted. My grandchildren will be cursing my name as they are moving a 60-inch wide by 42-inch tall hickory framed dresser.
Hickory. Ah, that's a
Dude,
like. I like Don't get me wrong. I like hickory, but that is not a light wood.
and it is not an easy wood to work.
No, it's not.
For my oldest daughter, I built a 5 foot tall by 3 foot wide walnut dresser
That's
that she will take
somewhat
with
easier.
her.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
walnuts
that,
gorgeous too.
and I did a hell of a job with all the drawer fronts and
Hmm.
coordinating the wood grain for like maximum aesthetic impact.
Nice.
I look at that. I get kind of sad when I go in her room and I see she's got 3 out of 5 drawers halfway open with shit overflowing out of them. And I'm like, "Ugh."
That's fair.
But I genuinely look at the thing and I go, holy shit! I designed and built that. I had no plans.
Yeah.
I roughly sketched it out and kind of came up with the design elements as I went along. That's a piece of furniture I would happily turn and charge somebody $6,000 for.
Oh, easily. And people would pay it. That's the wild part.
For the people for whom that is a feasible purchase,
Yeah.
would actually consider that money well spent.
Yeah.
So rather than taking the easy route and just kind of like,
Hmm.
oh, well, I'm gonna let the U.S. taxpayer pay for me because woe is me, I'm very disabled.
Right.
I chose the much harder path, and I
Yeah.
have continually learned and developed and built what is for anybody, much less with my limitations, I think an impressive skill set.
Oh, agreed.
So
Well,
I'm going
this
to take credit and win for that.
the skill development thing is one of those pieces that I claim for myself as well.
Hell yeah.
Um, I I did enough construction class related classes that I have been a of material benefit to improving our home, in let alone through the and flood reconstruction process. Like, I now know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at all of these things, and can point out stuff and say, this piece, yeah, this is weird, this is screwed up, but like all of that framing that is great. The original structure of our house is actually cedar framing. It's having drilled through it all. The floor joists are all cedar. The siding, the original siding, is still there. It's all like shiplap. It's all cedar. It's
Very
it's
flammable.
lovely, and I sorry.
Also very flammable,
Yes, and but
which you've brought up
less buggy.
in one of our best performing short videos.
I could, and I'm not going to, but I could. Um, uh, I've built pieces of furniture that we've used. I've learned how to cook to the point where my wife's coworkers are like, "Hey, can you bug your husband to make that dish for the things going on?"
Uh-huh.
Um, uh, I have I've looked at a number of things
All right.
that I still want to pursue. Some finer woodworking, set up a smithy. I'm gonna pound on hot steel at some point.
And that is not a nickname for Mrs. Dave.
Right, hot yes, steel no.
No.
Actually,
Keep
anyway,
it private. Inside thoughts, Dave. These are
right,
inside thoughts.
inside that. Well, I was just gonna say I might have to talk to her about that. I think she could get a bit of a kick out of it.
That's between you guys.
Right.
One of the things I tell my teenagers is, look, guys, at the end of the day, I care about two things: safe and
Mm-hmm.
consensual. Beyond that, I do not want to know details. I will tell you my opinions and my reasoning for how I believe you should conduct yourselves, but ultimately, my concern falls to two things. For my close friends, you know what? Safe and consensual is what I care about. Beyond that,
Safe,
keep it to yourself.
safe and safe and consensual. And as far as my kids go, you have to decide when you are ready. I will give you my opinions.
Mhm.
I do like the idea of grandchildren eventually.
Eventually.
Eventually. Um,
Yes, like at least 10 years from now.
well, for goodness sake. Like, yeah,
What's
yeah,
weird, what is honestly kind of a mind fuck for me is the fact that I am approaching the point at which I could actually be a grandfather.
uh huh.
I don't know.
Reasonably,
I don't know that my daughters are going to go along with that anytime soon, and I'm okay with that too.
say that is sometimes a choice that people make in the action, and the consequences happen whether they want them to or not.
Yeah, which is why my true advice for my kids is a bit out of line with modern sensibilities, and I'm okay with that.
No, that's fair.
But
I
so
I am very glad that my older children have had the advantage of experiencing what it is to have a baby and then a toddler running around, and how much fun it often isn't.
yeah, I can tell you, as the oldest of five kids who started taking care of babies at 5 years old, um, when I was in high school, I was all about avoiding any possibility of making my own.
Amen. One of those things that a quip that I have seen and actually rather subscribe to is the best form of birth control is being locked in a small apartment with um, a television stuck on children's shows and the sound of a screaming child for 5 hours.
And that's only a quarter of a day as a parent at home.
Right?
Well,
You
if you
it could
actually leave the
it
TV
could
on for that long,
it could last a lot longer than that.
yeah, I've I've had those days.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we are going to actively, and keeping in mind the drinking game, intentionally
Aha.
um, try to work on in our banter as we go through future shows is being more willing to give ourselves credit for
Yep.
things we've done well, denigrate ourselves a little bit less for our perceived shortcomings, which are
Mhm.
very rarely as severe as we tend to weight them.
Yeah.
There were some other discussions that went on with Facebook with me posting the last episode, where I was reminded that while, yeah, I definitely have made some mistakes and have done and said some things that I regret in raising my kids, especially younger, as I was less enlightened and in less control of myself. I didn't actually screw up nearly as badly as I could have.
Yeah.
And I recognized when I made those mistakes, and I have actively worked to correct and to make up for them. And while, yeah, the mistake, there will be some lingering amount of guilt for those mistakes forever. I've done a hell of a lot better than I could have.
Yes.
I could have chosen to remain in those behavioral patterns. I could have chosen to not work to improve myself and been a
Mm.
far worse parent than I have. And if how my kids are turning out is any kind of judge, I've actually done pretty damn well in spite of the things I've screwed up.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what Mrs. Dave wanted us to get at is
Yes.
we make mistakes. We are human, but we get a lot of things far more right than we get wrong. And we do not spend enough time dwelling on the things we get right, and we spend way too much time dwelling on the things we get wrong.
Yeah.
So
Part of that is simply basic human psychology. The
it
things
is,
you get right, the things you get right aren't likely to kill you out on the savannah. The things you get wrong are.
yeah. And we're to the point now where the things you get wrong just make other people feel bad for a long time, or yourself,
Right. Yeah.
which,
Which, frankly, is a better alternative.
yeah, although on the grand evolutionary scale, may be somewhat debilitating.
Yeah. Well.
Going back to some of what Ian had to say, but
Right.
we will endeavor in the future to better model giving ourselves credit for the things we do well.
Hmm.
Try to get a little less mileage out of self-deprecating humor, and try to see ourselves a little bit more how our wonderful spouses see us, even though
Yeah.
it's really fucking uncomfortable to do.
It is uncomfortable. It's hard. You have to face the fact that you know you are a human being who may be flawed, but has a number of successes under your belt and deserve to celebrate those.
Oh yeah. And so we took the time to, without deprecation,
Hmm.
give you a couple of things that we've done well and that we should be taking pride in.
Yeah.
And so it is definitely time to wrap this one up. This is our
Yeah.
longest episode ever.
It is. I noticed
It's
that,
long. It is our longest episode ever, and we did not spend it being shitty to ourselves.
which is good. Our wives will be pleased.
Yes, even if they aren't colluding, I'm still half convinced that they are.
Hey, look,
Even if it's all subconscious and
if,
and
if
well, like
they're
ESP stuff.
conspiring, it's for all of our good
It
anyway.
genuinely is.
Fine.
If there were ever two people conspiring against us,
Yeah.
I would like for it to be our spouses.
Yeah.
So everybody who has been here, we've had a bunch of people
Yeah.
on the stream who've been watching. Bob, you're probably asleep now, but
I hope so. I
thank
hope
you for your
everybody's asleep.
contributions. We are going to go ahead and put this one to bed. Remember, guys, be kind to yourselves.
Yep.
And if we are helping you feel a little bit less alone in the messy, messy journey that is trying to raise humans in this screwed up world, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe buttons over on your favorite social media, as long as it's not TikTok, because we're not there. We are on X. I'm trying to post on there more. We are active on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, BitChute, and we stream on Kick and Twitch. If you could go through and subscribe to those, that would be super helpful. Thank you for watching the videos. Thank you for joining us on the audio podcasts, where supposedly we've broken into the top 100 parenting podcasts in Canada on Apple Podcasts. Which, again, that feels kind of weird, but it also feels good. I'm gonna say, hell yeah, good for us.
Right?
So we're going to put this one to bed, and we will catch you guys next Thursday at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Central.
Good night.
All right, that is it for tonight's episode. Thank you for joining us. Quick reminder, all opinions expressed here are solely those of the individual speakers, hosts, and guests alike, and do not represent the views of any affiliated person, organization, company, sponsor, or other entity. This show is provided for entertainment purposes only. Nothing discussed is professional advice of any kind. Always consult a qualified professional and use your own best judgment before acting on anything we've talked about. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next episode.